Wrestling with Wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Do you see any of the aggro crag? Was any of that left over?
No, unfortunately not.
No?
I'm taking some of that home.
Definitely not is the barn burner that Lee Cassidy and Tiger Ellie Singh was, but we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Because it's still real to me, damn it.
He kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Selena Vega on a pole match.
And I mean, Big E's got Whale performing in his entrance, so I feel like
Wale.
Wale. I don't listen to. Okay, well, I don't listen to him, so I apologize to Wale.
This is in the mail, my good sir. No, it wasn't.
I feel like Vince is just gonna have them team together and be like, have them called Woo Bro. Like they're just gonna be the Woo Bros. Like, anyway.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely, and
then you can listen to us too.
Strap on and balls only on Wrestling Past and Present.
This is Gangrel, the Vampire Ward, and you're listening to Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kirk.
I'm Roland Pulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today we are talking about AEW Fyter Fest from 2019, which was the second ever big show from AEW.
And this was in a time where AEW was, like Tim said, in their infancy. They decided to give this show away. This was a free show. I think that a lot of people don't remember or don't appreciate the fact that they gave away a couple of shows at the beginning of their run to try to get fans invested more without having to actually pay anything. And this is before they had national television as well. So that was one of the reasons why I think they did it. They wanted to have more exposure. But still, to give away a pay-per-view caliber show, it's ballsy to do, especially in your infancy when you don't have, I mean, obviously you have Tony Khan's money, and his dad's money, and you have the money behind you, so it's not that big of an issue. But there's rumors out there that, Tony Khan's father told him that this wasn't going to make it from the get-go, that he wasn't even, he was like, go ahead and do it, but it's not going to survive. So it's definitely questionable to give anything away ever, no matter who you are, but to do that. And I think they appreciated the fact that they had a decent fan base turnout for the first show. So I figured they decided to just go ahead and let us have a couple of them to keep it going, to kind of bridge the gap to when they get the national TV. That's my thought of it, I think.
No, I think you're right on that because, like you said, they didn't have their TNT deal announced yet. They had it signed, but it wasn't announced. So I think this was their way to connect to the All Out pay-per-view that was going to come up in September, because it's going to be hard for, okay, you bought Double or Nothing and then now just buy it All Out. Like, if there's no build-up, there's no story, it's hard to do that again. So I think this and then Fight for the Fallen were two free pay-per-views they did. I think they kind of did it as their TV to keep their storylines going, to build up towards All Out, to kind of give you a preview. And like you said, and keep eyes on the product. And from what Meltzer said, they were both successful. This one had almost double the views they thought it would. And now they're turned into TNT specials. That's part of the 4 specials they'll be doing every year. We actually have Fyter Fest coming up this year, the 2 nights, and they're going to be doing the Fight for the Fallen again. So they're going to be doing them as Dynamite specials now. So I think it's cool. Plus, I also like that that's a shot at Fyre Fest. Do you guys remember that scam fest that happened? Where the guy basically was like, I'm a music promoter, and scammed all these millennials to the island and gave them cheese sandwiches and crappy little tents. And it was literally the worst scam experience ever. He started out basically being a StubHub broker. There's a good documentary on Hulu if you guys want to listen to it, or if anyone out there wants to listen to it, called Fire Fraud. That's why they called it Fyter Fest. They were making fun of this guy who basically scammed the millennials by using the Kardashians to promote this festival that never happened and never planned on happening.
Nice deep dive there.
Yeah. This is the type of inside information you get here on Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
Did they tell everybody about that on one of the cruises?
No, I just happened to watch the Fire Fraud on Hulu, and then they had announced this pay-per-view. I'm like, haha, they're making fun of it. That's hilarious. Even down to how the logo looks.
No kidding.
So there are 9 total matches. There was 3 on the buy-in. The buy-in is on YouTube if you're looking for it. We start the show off with a 3-way tag team match. This is to advance to All Out for a shot or for a bye in the tag team championship tournament. So you have Best Friends getting a win over SCU, which is Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, and Private Party in 16 minutes. This was a great match to open up the show. I mean, a lot of good wrestling in this. You got so many good performers. What I do like about it, like we talked about the buy-in, Double or Nothing, there's stakes involved in the buy-in. There's something on the line here, which I like, get you invested into it. So I thought they, really started the buy-in off in a good way.
And this was probably the coming out party for Private Party. I don't think anybody really had them on a radar per se to be one of the upper tier teams in AEW. And I think they showed that they could hang with, the likes of SCU and the Best Friends. I think that, a lot of people were wondering, who they were. So I think, Mark Quinn did a lot of athletic stuff in this match to kind of shine. And to be fair, everybody had their spots in this match that, that highlighted the match itself and made the match better. So, it wasn't what would come after this. Thankfully, we'll get into that. Some of that stuff was, I guess we'll say it now. Weird decision making went into what they put and how they put the order of the buy-in. But this match was definitely easily hands down the match you want to watch from the buy-in.
I agree. Usually the buy-in's only one match, so let's just pretend that it's only one match and watch this one. But you're right, though. This definitely put Private Party in a lot of eyes. And then when they went to Boston and beat the Young Bucks, that's when they really exploded. And fun fact, if any of our listeners watch that, when Private Party's celebrating in the crowd, you can see me, my fiance, and my kiddo high-five them as they walk by because they're literally partying right next to us after they win. But yeah, this match definitely showed off Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. I mean, that's when Isaiah Cassidy started doing his little famous scream that he does whenever a big spot's coming. He does that high pitch. Oh no! I'm not going to do it and hurt our listeners' ears, but you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And then obviously SCU. This is before they go on their run, and Best Friends are super over. I mean, they were over from Ring of Honor. That crowd just popped for that hug so hard. And this is kind of when I discovered Best Friends because I'd heard about them, but this is when I really kind of saw them and realized that they could wrestle. And I'm glad that they put this on first. But like you said, I don't know what the heck they were thinking afterwards because they weren't really, no spoilers, but solid matches afterwards.
Well, and let's just make sure that people know too. This was Frankie and Scorpio, SCU, not Daniels and Frankie. Just so people are aware. I mean, obviously, if you're a fan, you probably know that. But like Mongo said, SCU had the run with Scorpio and Kazarian, not Daniels and Kazarian, which was kind of weird that Daniels was, towards the end it mattered when they split up SCU, but like the run they had in AEW to start off with the tag titles and stuff, that was Frankie and Scorpio.
But I think it was to help build up and get more eyes on Scorpio because he's the young up and comer. I mean, because right now, I know people hated these weeks and Page, but they're funny. Their whole Men of the Year gimmick is great. Like his sarcastic heel gimmick he's got going on right now. Like the other day he came out and they're like self-proclaimed. He's like, self-proclaimed? You said it. It's obviously proclaimed.
And then someone else is like, the Acclaimed?
Right?
No, proclaimed. Oh, right. Max Caster's like, yo. It's like, no. That's not what we meant. Anyway.
So I guess we should just mention the other 2 matches on the buy-in. You have Allie getting a win over Leva Bates with Peter Avalon in about 9 minutes. Okay. Anybody want to say anything about that one?
Other than the fact that it was originally advertised as possibly Leva Bates and Kylie Ray at one point. So it sounds like Allie stepped in to take her spot essentially. And this, I think, was back when Kylie Ray retired. I think, or was kind of getting a little iffy with wrestling. So I assume that's what happened. But this is also back when Pretty Peter wasn't Pretty Peter yet. This is when he was a librarian. So this was the librarian gimmick between Leva and Peter Avalon.
I mean, I think, Allie's a hell of a performer. I mean, she had a great run on Impact. And I think now she's back into wrestling. And if I watched some of her YouTube interviews, and she had a lot of struggles, and that's why she wasn't wrestling for a while. So I think it's cool that, she stepped up to take place for Kylie Rae, especially given what happened with Kylie Rae. So because it shows the community, and I think it kind of helps out because Leva's definitely a great behind the scenes person. She's also a great wrestler. She was blue pants in NXT. If people don't remember, she was the girl who came out literally just in blue pants, and everybody chanted blue pants. That was her whole run in NXT. But yeah, it was the librarian gimmick. I'm not a fan of the librarian gimmick. I don't know what they were trying to. They tried really hard for a good year with the gimmick. I think Pretty Peter works for him better. I think Leva's still a good performer, but I think she wants to let the younger talent shine because she's been around for a while. But I'll just say, yeah, Allie stepping in, I think, was what made this match anything, was she stepped in. So I think that's why it doesn't really feel as organized because, like you said, she stepped in last minute and kind of had to take over. So it probably wasn't a lot of preparation time or any story building, but it was decent for what it was. But it's not something I'd go out and say you have to watch.
So knowing what we know about WWE and stuff, you would have thought that like the blue pants gimmick would have got over because Vince loves stupid shit. So like you would have thought he would have been like, blue pants, that's great. Put her on Raw. Put her on Raw with Eva. Have her come out. It'll be fine. And
it shouldn't be. It should be on SmackDown because she's wearing blue. No, that makes sense.
No, that's stupid. You're fired. But yeah. So again, I'm sure you guys saw on our page and on the internet, more releases of capable NXT up and coming talent to make room for possible returns of Brock Lesnar and John Cena. That's the rumor. We don't know. Again, we're not talking WWE. I just wanted to point that out that the Eve Marie has been moved to the alumni page already. So like I don't know if she was going to be on Raw for 2 weeks and that's it. Like I don't know. But boy, what a clusterfuck. Anyways, moving on to back what we were talking about.
I was
back
to say, yeah,
program.
Seems like once a week we have to make that announcement. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the thing too is that like it's relevant. So if we talk about it, it means that it came up and that, it's unfortunately something that we should at least mention, and I know this topic has nothing to do with WWE other than the fact that a couple of these guys have been there. But I mean, it's amazing to just look at it from the broad scheme of things, the way that the company's going. Like full disclosure, I know for a fact that two of us didn't watch any of Hell in a Cell. Any of it, like zero, like didn't even turn the damn thing on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Mongo. I didn't talk to him beforehand, but I know, and I'll say right now, Tim and I, we didn't watch any of it, and we're wrestling fans. It's hard to watch. I mean, this week I watched most of SmackDown, and I watched like an hour of Raw, and was like, screw this is brutal, and turned it off. That's how bad the program is horrible right now.
And that's why I'm glad we can do these reviews. Like this is why I think this was one of the highest pay-per-views they had for a while, because I mean, obviously until you get to All Out, but it was an alternative and it was free. So they were smart because they know that this is the build up to SummerSlam. This is June. There's not a lot of wrestling going on. They don't really do the King of the Ring in June anymore. So this was a good way to put an alternative out there to say, hey, are you sick of getting the same old crap shoved down your throat? Check us out. We're going to show you some new stuff. So, that's probably what made the pre-show a little bit of a cluster too, is because they're also trying to show off some of their new stuff and try to cram as much as they could in 2.5 hours, but there's only so much you can cram in. So I'll try to help Tim segue that since we don't want to go down that rabbit hole of a cluster.
So we have one more match from the buy-in. You have Michael Nakazawa and his baby oil getting a win over Alex Jabali in a hardcore match in about 9.5 minutes. I'm not a big Michael Nakazawa fan now or then, and Alex Jabali, I don't really know anything about him, to be honest. I know he's part of this was during a gaming convention. I think he had something to do with that. But yeah, another match where it's just kind of, I don't really care about it. Uh-oh.
Play the cricket sound. Where were you with that?
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. It's weird that they put this show, that this match at the end of the buy-in to be like, hey, you want to see more of this? It's like, no, we don't. We really don't. So it was interesting placement of the match per se, but mean, again, not a whole lot we can say about it other than it was just there.
Well, basically, sorry, my microphone was slipping, so I didn't want everybody to have to hear the loud thump like in the beginning of our intro. So basically, Alex Jebalia was the gaming organizer of Community Effort Orlando, the CEO. And essentially, he had fought Nakazawa in New Japan at like their Worlds Collide. So this was like a rematch of them just getting it. So it was kind of just like, hey, Alex is our promoter. Well, let's just put him in the ring for a fun match. Who can we use? Oh, Michael Nakazawa, because he's a comedy gimmick. And I mean, he is. I mean, for Christ's sakes, his whole gimmick for all was Michael, Naka, not going to win, so I don't want to see you.
Yeah. So that's the buy-in. Let's get to the main card now. You have 6 total matches on the main card. We started off with Sema and Christopher Daniels in a single match. Match goes just under 10 minutes with Sema getting the win. I thought this was an excellent match, excellent way to start the main card. It goes to show you the face they have in Christopher Daniels, because if you remember, he led off Double or Nothing as well. So this is the second major show in a row that they use him to get the crowd going and everything like that. And I think this match delivered. I didn't know a whole lot about Sema. I know he was on Double or Nothing, but he impressed me here. Both of these guys impressed me. So I really like this one.
Yeah, I think that they got this right. They at least started off. I mean, Daniels, I think he might be, again, we've talked about this before. I think he might be one of the best performers to never make it to WWE. And that's a shame for the fans that didn't get to see him in Impact and not really know who he was before he got to AEW. I mean, this guy, we just saw it last week that this guy was good for like 2 decades, and the mainstream fans don't know who he is because they just never seen him or heard of him. And it's too bad, because he is arguably one of the best of all time, I think, at especially that X Division style of match. And so it's nice that AEW is letting him shine and do some stuff that he can still do at his age. I mean, he's not super old, but he's definitely got some miles on him, and he's been around. And even 2 years later, they do the retirement angle with him and Frankie, and they lose and whatever, and we haven't seen him. And there's that if that's the last match we see from Daniels, he had a hell of a run, a hell of a career, and I think that more people need to know who he is and appreciate what he's done for the business.
No, I agree. And I think it's kind of cool that this angle runs, and the last month of shows we've done have been a lot of prominent Christopher Daniels matches. So it's kind of like subconsciously we chose Christopher Daniels, but we didn't. It just happened to be line up with dates and, us wanting to do other than, the Machine. We wanted to do AEW and TNA because we don't want to just cover the Machine every week and bore you guys to death. So speaking of not boring, this match was excellent. You have Shima, who had teamed up with Christopher Daniels in Japan when Christopher Daniels was Curry Man. I thought it was cool because Shima was trained by Ultimo Dragon in Luchador style, and then had gone to New Japan to learn strong style. So it's kind of cool because he has that strong style that Japan's known for, but then he has the Lucha Libre style, which really pops the American crowd and really pops the Hispanic crowd as well, because that's what's in the area. So, they're in Florida, where it's got a very big Lucha Libre fan culture. AAA's run a lot of shows there. So this was a great way to showcase him and also show the professionalism of Daniels putting him over, because, it's not like Shima really had big plans in AEW or they had big plans to push him. But it was kind of a nice rub to let your friend get the win on a pay-per-view to open a match, to show, like, this is my friend, look what he can do. And I thought it was a fun match, and their high spots, the BMEs, his corkscrew moonsault he did off the middle rope, like, definitely a great way to start it. Solid match, and I think it really showed that AEW was here to stay, that one night Double or Nothing wasn't just a one-night thing, that it was they're here to stay, and the revolution's real.
Yeah, absolutely. Our second match on the main card is a 3-way match. It's a women's match. You have Rio getting a win over Yuka Sakazaki and Nyla Rose in 12 and a half minutes. I thought this was a really solid match, but my problem is you have Nyla Rose, who they're trying to build up as this monster or beast, if you will, but she loses at Double or Nothing. Granted, she wasn't involved in the decision, and she loses here. I think she could have benefited from a win here. just so they could build her up properly. So that was my only issue with this, but I thought the actual wrestling part of it was great.
I think some of it too is if you're going to have multiple people in the match, you can get that monster, no matter who it is, you can get that monster to have a hell of a match and still lose. If it's done properly. So I don't know if that's some of the idea they were thinking. They were thinking, well, we have her in this 4-way match, the last show, we have her in a triple threat here. I don't know. Looking back on it, I don't know. I think Tim might be a little bit right. They were trying to push and put her in, like a highlight that, she's a beast, and, the native beast gimmick and stuff like that. So I don't know, if that was their logic of if we put extra people in there, we can kind of still make her look good without making her look bad kind of thing. So I don't know if they were kind of overthinking that maybe, but this also was one of those matches, kind of like the buy-in, that it was just there. There wasn't anything too special with it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst match ever either. And it did showcase women's wrestling halfway decent. I will say it wasn't a bra and panties match. It wasn't anything like that where like you're like, ugh, but it was just there. And it wasn't like I said, it was a fair match, I guess the best way to put it. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad. It was just there. It was okay.
No, I liked it. And like you said, it wasn't like the best match they could have had, but it also definitely wasn't the worst match. And Nyla was still a little green here, and I don't mean that as an insult. Just it's the nature of the business. She was newer to TV and hard cam, but I think they did a good job to kind of take both of your points of you had Rio and Yuka Sakazaki kind of teaming up on Nyla to try to take her down, and she was just dominating both of them. And it kind of had Rio to have like shenanigans to win, like okay, I had to give this lucky roll up to it. So at least it kind of showed she didn't get squashed, but she didn't squash them. So it was kind of like they wanted to squash, but they didn't. Like Tim said, they wanted to show her off as a beast, but then they had plans with Rio, so they had to showcase Rio looking strong too. So I think it was just a matter of they were trying to figure out where to go with it, and that's kind of what resulted. It was just storyline wise, I agree with you, Roland. It was just kind of meh, and I think it did what it did, and it showcased Rio. And Yuka Sakazaki is actually coming back for about a month because of the quarantine issues, so she'll be back this July for AEW. So I'm excited to see her because she's really talented.
Who did you say was coming back?
Yuka Sakazaki.
Bless you.
On that note,
I wanted to say it. You said it so fast during your thing. I wanted to say it then. I wanted to after you rattled off the names, I wanted to be like, "Oh, bless you." But yeah,
we all know my struggle with English language. So you're going to add in a surname that's already hard for me to pronounce. That's just bound for disaster. It's like those old TV shows on Fox. 60 Seconds to Disaster.
You said it 3 times though perfectly. So let's just move on.
We have a 4-way match next up. You have Adam Page getting a win over Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy with Luchasaurus, and MJF. Match went about 11 minutes long. I thought it was a solid match. MJF cuts this wicked promo before the match. He's picking on video gamers and stuff like that. It was an awesome promo. And again, like Double or Nothing, where the Battle Royal and his promo with Bret Hart kind of established him as the top heel. This even further that, I think, to establish him as the top heel in the company. And they're also pushing Adam Page here. He won the Battle Royal Double or Nothing, so I think he's going to face Jericho, so I think you have to make him win here. So I think the booking made sense, but I also think it did MJF a lot of favor. So I think it was smart, and I thought it was a really good match. And I thought this was booked properly.
And what could have been with Jimmy Havoc? I know, he had some issues in AEW, more or less let him go essentially, but it's too bad because they spent some time building him up. Like there was interest in him and his character and his gimmick. And you can see that, back in 2019 that, fans were at least with the gimmick. It was one of those things. I don't really know how to describe the gimmick of Jimmy Havoc. I don't know exactly, it's kind of like Undertaker-esque, but with weird, it's like the death vibe with I don't know, Mongo, how would you describe it? What would you sorry to put you on the spot there,
probably Marilyn Manson had a son with Mick Foley.
There you go. Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, that's nailed it. So like they liked the gimmick and the fans, got it, and it's just too bad that he had some allegations and stuff like that we won't get into, but they had to kind of just part ways with him, and hopefully none of it's true, and hopefully everything works out for him and whatever. I haven't heard much lately about it, but anyways, like Tim said, MJF might have stole the whole show with the promo. I mean, not that the show was bad by any means, but like that dude can talk, and everybody. MJF, I think, is the guy that can draw heat in this business right now. I think Roman's up there right now, base character wise, but longevity wise, I feel like MJF's been doing it for what, like 3 or 4 years now. Like it seems like since even before he was with AEW, he was getting that heat. So they were smart about it. They let him get his heat, and then like you said, they had Hangman go over. So
yeah, it was definitely, I don't want to use the word perfect match because obviously there's, flaws, everything, but from a storyline standpoint and from just crowd intensity, it was definitely like the perfect match. When MJF came out and said, I used to play video games and then I lost my virginity, and the entire crowd went, that is true. That is true. Like they're with him. And this was when he was that weird, like I'm pretending to be a face to set up a storyline with Cody angle. But I liked it because you never trusted it. Because they were smart with how they made him. Like they made him such a dick, and he is like he stays in this character, and that's what I think. Honestly, I like Roman. I think Roman's talented. I don't think anyone's in MJF's league just because of how he talks. He is a true heel. I mean, I've told stories before, but when I was on the Jericho cruise, some guy in a wheelchair came up to him and he grabbed the wheelchair, moved out of the way, and said, "Get out of my way, Wheels!" Like he's an asshole, and he plays it well. Someone brought in the North American title for him to sign. And he goes, "Oh, this is awesome." And he grabs it and smiles and walks away with it and throws it in a trash can during the autograph signing. And I actually made fun of MJF and he laughed at me. So I have the distinct honor of that too. So real quick, before I tell you how good this match was, I was getting breakfast, and it's buffet style, and they put all the silverware on the table. So he sits down. I can see him over in the corner. I'm not going to bug him because he's eating. I'm literally getting a drink at the drink machine. I hear him ask the server, "Where's the silverware?" And she goes, "Oh, it's right here, sir." And I just went, like, just laughed. Like I just couldn't help myself. And he looks over, he's like, "Fuck you." And I was like, yes. But in a nutshell, MJF being a heel, getting his comeuppance, Jungle Boy debuting with Luchasaurus, and then Adam Page going over with that nasty looking dead eye. It was the right way to finish the match. It was solid. And I think it was a good way to showcase their stars. It was a good way to showcase the homegrown talent, so to speak. And like you said, it is a shame about Jimmy Havoc. I don't know too much, so I don't want to, dive into that either. But overall, the 3 that they have left out of that are still doing well. I mean, Jungle Boy's fighting for the title tonight, so it shows that they knew how to build stars.
And I think that's another thing too. Like, it's pretty cool that we're having this show. This show will come out at 5. We're recording Saturday morning again for the first time in what feels like forever. And later on tonight, we have an AEW show that we're excited to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus the opposite of the nobody watches the WWE crap right now. Like I said, they had a pay-per-view this past Sunday. 2/3 of us, I don't know about Mongo situation, we haven't talked about, but 2/3 of us didn't even watch it. Like, didn't even turn the damn thing on.
I fell asleep too. Does that count?
Yeah. I'm just saying, it just proves how different the product was even then. It just they're trying to be the true alternative and give you, a little bit of gaga and way more wrestling and pro wrestling, not sports entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to make one point about Jimmy Havoc before we move on. Can you just picture? I can just picture him in a tag team with Darby. Like, wouldn't that be like an awesome team?
Yeah, I think that it's like I said, he has that kind of. I mean, Darby has that kind of dark vibe too, a little bit, but he's definitely more like face vibe. So I don't know. Havoc's always been that like that heely kind of like slimy. So I guess you could do it like look wise and kind of like gimmick wise. They are somewhat similar in ways. So I can see that. Yeah.
Speaking of Darby, it is time for his debut. He's going to take on Cody Rhodes, or just Cody with Brandy Rhodes, technically. They're going to fight to a time limit draw, which was 20 minutes. I think most people remember what happened after the match, which is kind of a shame. I do want to talk about the match for a little bit. This was an excellent match. You probably weren't, a lot of people probably weren't too familiar with Darby Allin at this point. but he put on a hell of a performance, and Cody as the face of the company. So I think I don't normally like time limit draws, but I think this did both guys a favor. You protected the face of the company and Cody, and you didn't do any damage to Darby in his debut. So I think a time limit draw was the way to go. And I actually like time limits. It brings me back to classic old school wrestling because they make sense. Because it's a TV show, and you need time limits on these matches because the show's 3 hours, or you only have 15 minutes left. You know how long the match is going to be, anyways. So I think time limits actually make sense. So I thought this was really, really well done. I'll get your thoughts on the match, and we'll talk about what happened after.
Time limit draws make sense to an extent if they're done correctly. And this was the ones that was done correctly because when's the last time you saw a time limit draw on any WWE product?
No, they don't even do time limits anymore.
That's what I'm saying. So it made all the fans go, oh shit, they're actually timing these matches. Like it brought that back from back in the day because WCW used to do stuff like that where they'd have time limit and stuff, and WWE. I can't tell you the last time I've even heard or saw or mentioned, they have a timekeeper, but what does he really do?
Yeah.
Do anything. Match wise, he might help produce the match at certain points or whatever, but like for the time aspect of it, nothing. So, like Tim said, it was nice to see they did it correctly. And I think a lot of fans forgot about that aspect of a match that, sometimes to tell a story, you need to have a time limit draw. I mean, it sucks there wasn't a finish. But honestly, how else are you supposed to do something where, like Tim said, you keep Cody looking strong and you also don't bury Darby in his first match? So I think, when it's done correctly, it gives both fans that push they need, or both superstars, both wrestlers the push they need for the fans to be like, wow, both of these guys are pretty good. And I think that's what it did.
You just stole my WCW thunder. No, I'm just kidding. But
that was good.
I agree. I'm not going to go on the time limit, again, because you guys both just touched on it beautifully. But that was great too, and I love the promo here. Especially going back, knowing what Darby's accomplished. You don't know my name, but you will. Like those lines are going to echo with me for a while. Cause I'm like, wow, that's true. Like he's right. He came out. The coffin drop on the apron where he basically broke his friggin' ribs. And I sent you guys in the group chat. There's a fan whose mouth is just hung open. Me too, man. Me too, because I'll never forget. Emily doesn't react when we watch WWE, and she'll just kind of go, unless there's a bad spot. I remember this match. We were watching it live, and he did that coffin drop, and she went, oh, almost came out of the couch. And
she turned into Paul Bear.
Pretty much. Oh yes. There's my terrible Paul Bear impression.
Did it sound like this?
Yeah, pretty much. So, and I just remember rewatching it. Like I still cringe. Like when he hits the coffin drop on the apron, it's not even his back; it's his fucking rib, and like it just looks like it shatters. And it showed that this kid came out to show he can shine. I'm glad that he's getting the push he deserves because he reminds me a lot of like a young Jeff Hardy. Like he's that risk taker who, when he gets the push, he's hot with the crowd. I mean, I still have people to this day trolling my kid because he met Darby on the cruise. Like once in a while, like it'll pop up in AEW's memories. They'll show Darby meeting Cam when he's dressed up as him. And I've had people message me like, oh, he doesn't even know who Darby is. No, he does, because he watched this match. He remembers this match. And half the time, all he talks about is, remember when Darby took that coffin drop on the apron and broke his body? Like, he remembers that. So, like, how we grew up with that Mick Foley going off the Hell in the Cell, he's going to remember that. I know it's not as brutal, but it was one of those moments that he remembers from review. So I think that's what got Darby over. It's just a willingness to put his body on the line and go up against one of the elites and to show that he stood toe-to-toe with him. I think they did a good job with that, and that was the perfect use of the timing, like you both said, because it showcased both of them, and it didn't make either one look weak.
Certain matches get you like that. Like, okay, I was born in 86, so when Brett and Davey Boy fought in Wembley Stadium, I saw it, and I remember it. I was, 5-6 years old at the time. So, like, there's certain things that get you. Like, when we did our pick our best matches for our anniversary show, that was one of my matches because I've seen that match probably 30 times. And I still remember it from when I saw it then. Like, my dad was a fan. We would watch it sometimes, and that's how I started. But I remember that match like that. As soon as we talked about doing one from before 2000 and after, 92 SummerSlam, boom, done. Like, I didn't even have to like it. So you're exactly right. There's certain matches where as a kid, you remember certain aspects of things and you're like, man, that was crazy. So like anybody that wants to, troll, like, and no offense to people listening to the show, there's people that troll us about having Vince Russo do cameos and whatever. That's cool and everything. But like, you've got to remember we're all wrestling fans, and Vince Russo, even though he might crap on a certain product, we do the same thing, to be honest, because the current product sucks. But like, we're all fans. So like trolling people and doing all this stuff, there's no point. We're supposed to be a community of like wrestling fans and whatever. So like, whether you're trolling us or you're trolling Cam or you're trolling, like, just knock it off. Like, there's no, you're not helping anybody. You're not cool. You're talking about and again, I'm doing this in parentheses, a fake sport, and you're trying to be a douche about it. Like, don't do it. Just don't. Like, no, like, we want views, we want listens, and we're trying to grow it and everything, but don't be negative. There's no reason to be negative. And that's the thing that gets me. Like, I have to bite my tongue on some of this stuff, and I'm not going to today because I need to say it. Like, there's no reason, no matter who we have, it's entertainment, people. Like, this is literally, we're talking about an entertainment show. We're trying to entertain you about talking about entertainment. So like, get over it. Plain and simple. Just get over it.
And I will say, it's not the Jericho Cruise community. I'm really excited. I'm going to get you guys some content. I'm going to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain here. In 4 months, I'm going on the Jericho Cruise again, and I plan on filming and creating content while on the cruise for you guys. That community is amazing. Everyone in the Jericho community, I'm still friends with. We have a lot of listeners, so shout out to you guys. That community is what the wrestling community should be. It's right. Literally the three of us. It's people who are friends. I remember Emily was nervous first time we went on the boat, and I was like, no, true wrestling fans respect each other and can have civil conversations. I might not agree with a lot of stuff, in New Japan, certain wrestlers. I might not think they're as good as they do, but I had conversations with people. You know what they didn't do? They didn't troll. They didn't down us.
Right.
So, like Shima. I like Shima. Some people aren't a fan. It's different preference. Some people only want to watch WWE. That's fine. Some people only want to watch AEW, and that's fine. Some people only want to torture themselves and just watch Impact. I guess that's fine. I think that as fans, we should watch all the products. If you're a true fan, watch all the products, because it's like a movie. You don't just watch the Fast and the Furious franchise. There's other movie franchises. You don't just watch Fox. You watch USA. There's other products. That's what you have to think of. It's just a different company. And I don't get why some people get so offended. Oh, why that AEW is rising? They have to troll it too and be like, oh, haha, ratings 500,000, AEW in the mud. Why would you want to see a company fail? Even if you're not a fan, why do you want to see people not work? I don't want to see the NWA fail. I'm not the biggest NWA fan. I might look at their product here and there. I don't want to see them fail. I'm happy Mickie James is at NWA doing the women's pay-per-view. Like, I don't want to see them fail. I don't understand the mentality of the wrestling fans who are like, want to see companies fail. So you only want WWE, so that's the only product in town, because it's going to drive you away. Is if they're a monopoly, guess what? They get to do whatever they want. You have no alternative. So why would you ever want to see anyone fail?
Dude, imagine WWE's current product right now without AEW.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm not even trying to be like a dick. I'm just saying, the current product right now is so stale and so bad that the only thing that I'm still watching is I'll sprinkle in some NXT, because that's still pretty good. I'll give them that. The product, but even that has slipped a little bit. It's not as good as it used to be. It's still good. Don't get me wrong. But I think some of that is they're also taking people from NXT to put them on the roster and not do anything with them. So I think that hurts them too. But if those two products, if NXT and AEW weren't around, and I know NXT is owned by WWE, so anybody that wants to put that in the comments, no, I get it. I'm just saying, if it was just Raw and just SmackDown, nobody'd be watching. Like, this product, if it was the current state right now, this product is horrible, and something needs to be done, and it's plain and simple. So, like I said, anybody that wants to troll or whatever, that's cool. But like, just know that we don't have time for you. We just don't. And if that's how you could, like Mongo said, we're trying to be a family. We're trying to entertain you. We're trying to be fans. We want fans just like us. And if you're here just to troll or whatever, just leave. Save yourself. And I'm not trying to drive people away. I'm just saying, we're doing this. We did this when we had no viewers, no listeners, no nothing. And we'll still be here doing it when we have, if it ever gets to that point, because we enjoy it. And if we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't do it. So like, if you think you're going to come in and post a comment or whatever and troll us, like, you're not, bro, you're not getting there. It's not happening.
I want to expand on those points real quick. But first of all, like, there's one thing to troll us, like we can take it, or but when you troll a kid, that's like another form of low life. There, you're a piece of shit if you're trolling a kid.
Yeah, 100%.
So I wanted to say that, but the other thing too about now, you shouldn't want the companies to fail, but you got to think back to the Monday Night Wars. That's when wrestling was at its peak. That's when WWE put out its best product because they were challenged by WCW. You had the Attitude Era because of WCW, because of the NWO. Without the competition, you might not see DX. You might not see the Attitude Era. So why would you want a company to fail? You want competition because it brings out the best in both companies.
Well, think about the early 2000s after WCW went under. The product in WWE got stale again. It's doing the same thing that's doing now, which is and I think, to be 100% fair, I think a lot of the WWE product being stale right now is lack of fans. I will give them that. And I don't know what they're waiting for. I know they're starting to go back, but they're in Florida, so they could have already been running shows, even if it was like with 3,000, 5,000 fans. They could have been running shows with actual fans instead of doing the Thunderdome. So I think at this point, the Thunderdome is actually hurting them because they're still in this bubble that they don't necessarily need to be in anymore. And that's where AEW has the upper hand because they have fans there, and you can tell the difference.
Well, and if you look back too, I won't go too much off so we can continue with the last couple matches on here. But if you look back pre-pandemic era, how hot the AEW crowds were every single night. And it's not just because they were new, because Bully Ray said on Busted Open, one of the things he enjoyed Wednesday nights was how electric the crowd was, how energized the crowd was. It's only going to get better for us as fans because now that these full crowds coming back, people are going to be excited again. These crowds are going to be hot again because they haven't had anything to cheer about in a long time. But now they're going to be able to. And I think the biggest thing is when you took away the crowd, they were smart. They put their wrestlers out there and, they brought crowds back as soon as they could last August because it kept the energy. I think they did the best during the pandemic era because they were going to the moon, to quote NXT. And unfortunately, the pandemic killed a lot of the momentum. And so these shows show how hot the crowd was even for this show, how hot the crowd will be for NXT. Yes, the crowd helps your product, but you can't just rely on the crowd. You have to have a good in-ring product too. So I'm not trying to say your point's not valid, but I thought it was kind of funny. We're waiting for crowds to come back before we put out a good product. Well, so you've been insulting the performers the whole time?
What's the crowd going to come back to though? If the product's not good, why are people going to want to come back? You still have to have a decent product that's the other thing too, is that they don't get that you need to put out a decent product so when the crowds can come back, they want to come back.
So I'm going to put the challenge out to, I feel like this will be the person now, Andy Facillo. I know you listen. You seem like a betting kind of person. What are the odds that they sell out SummerSlam? What are you going to give me? 10-1 that they're going to sell it out, not sell it out?
Not a paper sellout, a legit sellout.
Yeah, not WrestleMania 32 where they try to insult you by saying it has 20,000 more fans than the building can hold.
Right, and that's the thing. Vince is we're waiting for the crowds to come back. It's the crowds need to have something to come back to. Stupid. If you're putting out a product that sucks, nobody's going to want to go to it. That's the difference between AEW and WWE right now. Is that WWE, other than the stuff they have going with Roman and a few little things, they have nothing. They have nothing going on that fans are going to be I want to see that. And then when Brock comes back to challenge Bobby Lashley or whoever he comes back to challenge, it's the same thing. It's we don't want that. We just don't want. You might want it, Vince, but we don't. So and then they'll be we don't get why the attendance was down. It's because your product sucks. Plain and simple. Fix it. Get people invested. The way they did the Fiend, all that stuff, the garbage that happened. They've had so much opportunity to keep stuff going. You could have kept it going and had it ready for when fans come back, but instead they ruin all that. And that's the main difference. I think AEW, Tony Khan, the Bucks, Cody, all these people, they understand you need to have something that wants to pull these fans in. Meanwhile, Vince is when they get here, we'll surprise them. It's what if they don't want to get there?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Circling back though to this Cody Darby match, we do have to talk about what happened after. Sean Spears comes out and gives one of the nastiest chair shots to the head to Cody that you'll ever see, especially in this day and age. Supposedly the chair was gimmick, but something happened and it just didn't go as it was planned. But it was nasty, and it was shocking to see that in this era of CTE and concussions and all that. Just to see that again, it brought back memories to me of The Rock and Mick Foley at Royal Rumble '99. where there was like about 100 chair shots to the head. It was brutal.
Unprotected chair shots too.
Yeah,
not
unprotected.
Putting their hands up, like Mick had his hands handcuffed, and he was getting the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We covered that show in the archive, so if you want to go listen to our takes on that, go ahead. But it was a shocking moment, and but yeah, you don't really need to see that every day in wrestling anymore.
No, and they claim that the reason that their blood happened was because the chair was gimmicked, and it kind of like folded a weird way, and it kind of, because if you go back and watch it, he did hit him kind of high, like you're supposed to kind of hit him with the seat part of the chair, and he kind of hit him with the top. So like some of that was but yeah, it's definitely, you don't, especially in this day and age. I mean, the last 10 plus years, you don't see chair shots to the head anymore. You see the ones to the gut that fold them over, then you see the ones on the their back and whatever. Definitely shock factor was through the roof. At this point, a lot of people still knew him as Ty Dillinger from NXT and WWE and stuff like that. But definitely a shocking way to end what was a great match. I mean, it just this was almost as shocking as when MJ. I mean, not that we weren't expecting it, but it was almost as shocking when MJF kicked him in the nuts, like turned on him. It was that kind of like shock factor where you didn't know what was going to happen. You knew. With the MJF thing, you knew that eventually he was going to do it. Like Mongo said, he was setting up to feud with Cody and turn on him and whatever. But like this was supposedly and thought to be one of Cody's actual friends, which that they played that off. At least with MJF, you knew that he was kind of being a douche to try to be his friend.
You're right. Like Tim said earlier in the show, this is what most people remember, which is a shame because I think this kind of took away a little bit, but it set up All Out because that chair shot, like they call it the chair shot, heard around the world. And man, at first I'm like, oh, it's a work, that's got to be fake blood or he bladed. And then I saw his head move and I just saw the puddle of blood. And when I say puddle, I mean, it was a puddle. Like his head was red. I was like, damn, Double or Nothing and this, he's just going to have scars all. And then the next paper, he dives out and breaks his face. So like Cody literally put his body on the line in these first shots. And I agree with both of you too, during the CTE and what we know about concussions, unprotected chair shots, it's just not something that I want to see personally, because I don't want to see, someone's brain scrambled, because we know what the long-term effects are. Maybe, I know I crap on when they hit people in the back with a chair, but sometimes you can do things without having to just lay someone's head out. And I also heard it was gimmicked and the same kind of thing, that they maybe forgot to take one of the bolts off the top of the chair. Like Roland said, you're supposed to kind of hit him with the seat, so the seat kind of folds in, so it's not as dramatic. But he kind of caught him with the top of the chair, and it had like a bolt. And because that's why, if you notice, he hits him on one side of the head, but the other side of his head's bleeding. Because that's where originally I thought it was a work. I'm like, wait, he hit him on the left side, but the right side's gashed. And then you realize after there's a little screw, so I think they forgot to shear off one of those screws, and that's what caught him, or it didn't get sheared off enough. But it definitely set the match up, and I think they show that chair shot. No matter how many times I've seen it, I cringe every time. I just see his lifeless body just drop to the back, because they said he didn't have a concussion, but with his eyes being that glazed over afterwards, he had to have something, because he was gone. Once a show, Roland. Once a show.
Twice a show this time. Anybody that thinks that he cut himself, it was the hard way, 100% hard way. It wasn't supposed to happen, and you can tell by the fact that, like Mongo said, I mean, it was a gash. It wasn't like a blade mark. It was like a chunk of his skin folded over and hanging off. Like it was hard way.
Oh yeah, it was only like the first second when you saw like the little bit of red in the hair. I'm like, oh, and then like I said, he moved right after. Like, oh no, he definitely did.
Next up is officially our last official match on the main card. It's a six-man officially. It's a six-man tag team match between the Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. They're going to get a win over the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid in about 21 minutes. Again, this is an excellent match. I think it was booked properly, because I think the right people went over. Because Kenny, I don't think you can have Kenny Omega lose 2 in a row. He lost a Double or Nothing to Jericho. So I think it was a superb match. I didn't know anything really about Laredo Kid, but he impressed me. Lucha Brothers can go. The Young Bucks can go. I mean, it's one of the best matches on the card, I think.
And to look back on, like, I don't, wins and losses matter, I guess, in AEW. So that's one thing they also did differently than WWE does. But so can you name another team or another group of people that seem to lose more often than the Lucha Bros? Like
Death Triangle?
Yeah, right. So like it seems like these guys have banger matches and they're always losing. Like, to me, like, they win some here and there, but it seems like those banger matches they lose like every time. Like, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that just shows you that they, if they cared, they'd be like, we need to win. Like, that doesn't work for me, brother. It's like, no, they're doing what they have to do to make the fans happy, and if that means essentially job into the Bucks if you have to. And I know it wasn't a job match, but I'm just saying, like, losing to the Bucks 5 out of 6 times, they do it. It's just it. But they put on such a great match that they, the product's so good when they go that I think it doesn't matter. Like I said, wins and losses matter, but like I don't think it does in that aspect because they pick up wins on different shows to get their wins and loss records back up, but they don't seem to win the big ones. But it doesn't seem to matter. But yeah, great match, and like you said, Kenny, you can't have Kenny Omega lose 2 matches in a row. So,
and especially too, they were trying to pop the crowd. They all came out dressed up as different characters from different games. I don't want to announce the games because I don't know them, so I don't want to butcher the names of them. But almost like Street Fighter-esque, I'll say that. So they came out, they popped the crowd. Lucha Brothers are still over, like you said. They never get the big one, but they're still so over. I mean, all Penta has to literally do is just go Ziedo, Miedo, and the whole crowd says it with him. And I mean, there's even memes about it. Like when I say Ziedo, if you don't say Miedo, you're gonna get kicked in the like. It's like there's all these different memes. So they're super over, and I can't wait when they get their title run because they are a great tag team. Ray Phoenix is probably one of the best high flyers that they have right now. Like he is. I don't know if he's got anti-gravity in his DNA, but some of the stuff he does doesn't look like he should be landing when he does. It's insane. And then Penta he brutalizes you. And honestly, I think with Laredo Kid, this is who I wanted Death Triangle to be. I think these 3 are better than Death Triangle and Pac. I feel like it's almost like the Lucha Brothers and Pac. It doesn't really feel like a faction. It doesn't feel like a group. But if with Laredo Kid, it does because they flow. They have chemistry. It seems like they could have a good story. Like, we came up in AAA together, everybody doubted us there. They doubt us here. That could be a great storyline to go on, is have them rise up because the trio titles are coming. Spoiler alert if you haven't read the dirt sheets, but Cody Rhodes said last year when I went on the cruise that they're working on trios titles. So they just haven't got them done. They're trying to fit them in, but what a great way, who could be your best first time? Maybe have Death Triangle be your first champion because they deserve a title run because they're phenomenal. And this match was a great way to officially, unofficially on the show.
And to go back to the point about Penta, I mean, you have people, Penta's so mainstream. You have people like George Kittle, the 49ers tight end, when he gets a first down or whatever, he does the say, like, the zero miedo, he does that. And everybody's like, finally somebody had to say what it was because everybody's like, what is that? Like, so Penta's that over, that's the thing. I mean, and Ray Phoenix, like you said, he might be one of the most talented wrestlers ever. And that's saying something.
Yeah. We do have one more match to discuss. It's an unsanctioned match between Jon Moxley and Joey Janela. Match goes 20 minutes with Jon Moxley getting in the win. I mean, this was just a hardcore match. It was a Mick Foley special. I thought it was really entertaining. I mean, it wasn't a pure wrestling match by any stretch of the imagination. It is Moxley's debut in the ring here. The announcers even acknowledged that there wasn't really much of a backstory here. There wasn't really a feud going on. It's just 2 people who are crazy going at it. So I think their styles mixed well. And everything like that. So I was really entertained. And then at the end with the interference by Kenny sets up, the feud between Kenny and Moxley there.
I think too, this might be one of the things that AEW's gotten wrong from the get-go. They don't get much wrong, but I think if you're going to push a guy like Joey Janela, who is that deathmatch kind of like esque wrestler, and then like how many times have they started and stopped with him? Like the fans are like, and I'm not the biggest fan of Joey Janela. I call him Jelly Janela all the time. Like it's whatever. But like they keep like starting and stopping, and it's, I don't know if that's some of him, some of them. I just feel like they've missed, like we talk about Vince missing with people. I feel like they've missed with Janela because he had so much low key like buzz from, you know, the underground of professional wrestling, you know, people knowing who he was and all this stuff. And I just feel like they didn't capitalize on that quite enough because, you know, Mox was that guy before he went to be Ambrose in the WWE. So I feel like there was a gap there that they tried to bring these two guys together, and then Moxley gets shot to the moon, and Janela just kind of like just up and down and tag team with Sonny Kiss, and it's almost like they didn't really know like what to do with him. And it's unfortunate because clearly they had a main event a pay-per-view. I mean, I know it was free and whatever, but I mean they had a main event a show with Moxley with no storyline other than the fact, like Tim said, that they were two guys that were insane. So like I feel like this is one of the things that AEW has missed on a little bit. And like I said, I don't know if that's Janela's fault. I don't know if that's AEW's fault. I don't know if it's both of their fault. I don't know. But I feel like they could have done more with him going forward the way that they did this 2 years ago. Like they set him up and then they just never really got there.
Yeah, I think it's hard. And like Tim said, the story wasn't really there. I mean, it was pretty much just from a BTE segment. So there's a Being the Elite that took place right after Double or Nothing where Janela's smoking a cigarette, talking trash to Moxley. Moxley takes a cigarette, takes a puff, and like flicks it at him, and that's what set up the match. And I think it was just more of a "you came to my house, disrespect me" kind of thing. But it was just more they both came up to like the CZWs and the hardcore match specials, so it was a way for them to both show off their death match, and it was a way I called it the Ambrose breaking out of the asylum match because I think this was a way to show that he wasn't Dean Ambrose anymore. Is really what there was, and it's also, I think he wanted to show he could be hardcore because remember his WrestleMania match with Brock Lesnar was a dead and a half because Lesnar wouldn't take any bumps or do any bumps with weapons. So it was basically just Moxley beating the crap out of himself. So I think this way of saying, look, I want a hardcore match because I don't ever want that, you know, to be my last hardcore match. So I think that's what it was. And like you said, Joey Janela, hardcore specialist. I mean, when I went to that show in Boston, him and Kenny did the ladder match, the unsanctioned ladder match where they just destroyed each other too. So I think that's what he is. He's just a hardcore specialist. I don't think he really ever had plans to do anything, but, you know, have matches with the John Moxleys, the Eddie Edwards, the Kennys, the Jimmy Havocs, when they did that awesome one All Out, when they had the three of them in the Cracker Barrel match where they destroyed each other and Darby took the coffee drop on the Cracker Barrel. Or even at All In, Joey Janela got like a cigarette stapled to his friggin' head. So like,
yeah, I mean, I think it was, you know, it's a good way to end the show. It makes the crowd go home happy. And again, it sets up the feud with him and Omega. So that is our rundown of Fyter Fest 2019. I thought it was excellent. I'm going to give this a high rate. I'm going to give this a 9, I think. I thought it really was good. Only letdown, or this kind of their match, was the women's match, unfortunately. But even that, it wasn't really that bad. But I would recommend that if I had to pick one, and it's tough because I think the whole card is good, but I would pick the 6-man tag as my one match to watch.
Yeah, I think it's hard to take any match other than that. And then you also have to take the first match from the pre-show, you know, that match, you know, with SCU and Best Friends and Private Party. I think those two matches stole the show. And then really the fatal 4-way match essentially too with all those guys. We talked about that a little bit with, you know, Jimmy Havoc and Paige and MJF and Jungle Boy. So like there was some good highlights in this show. It's hard to pick just one, and even the Cody Darby match was a great match. So it's hard to pick one, but I think you're right. I think that's where you have to go. The fans seemed to be up for that whole match, so I think that they enjoyed it too. I'm not going to go quite as high as you. I'll probably say 7.5, 8. It was a very good show. I seem to rate a little bit high or a little bit harder than you guys do anyway. So I'm always a little bit, you know, maybe I'm the Meltzer of the group where it's not a 5-star match in the Tokyo Dome. But yeah, I'd say it was a solid show. And to be honest, what else can you ask for free?
No, I agree. And I usually always go in the middle. It's funny because I was thinking 8.5 in my head too. So it's funny. So I'm usually always in the middle too. But I would say I can't really pick one match. For me, it would probably be the Cody Darby match just because it's so underrated for what it was because of the chair shot that I think it was a sleeper match of the night. For actual match night, I agree with Tim. The elite versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid was probably the best match they had stylistically. They do deliver, and this was essentially a precursor what their Dynamite was going to be. It was about 2.5 hours, so it was kind of like a Dynamite and a quarter, and it showed what their product could be. And I think it was smart because when Dynamite premiered, there's a reason they got a million views on their premiere episode, because they had something like this, and they had Fight for the Fallen come out that showed what their product could be.
And that's the other thing too. Like once I named a match, I then remembered other matches that were good. So like that's a good problem to have.
It is, considering what we complain about with the current product of the machine, to not give them free publicity all the time. This is a good alternative. This, you hear the sound clip over and over, Cody Rhodes saying this is a revolution. It's true. I really think that, because Roland said last episode that from 2016 to now, the WWE product has sucked. Well, from 2016 now is when Ring of Honor and New Japan, the Bullet Club, they had the revolution. AEW came into the fold 3 years after. So this is a wrestling revolution. And, to harp back on our point, I'm glad that we have AEW to watch, because we do have entertaining products to watch. It's nice to rate a show where I'm like, oh, I have to watch that.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like you have people that like sometimes are like, well, how come you guys didn't preview Hell in a Cell? It's like, because no one cares. Like it right now, it's hard to watch the product. And I think they're being too reserved. I think that they're like, well, when live fans come back, we'll do all this cool stuff. And it's like, sooner or later, like some of these like fans that are on the fence are just going to say, screw it, and not watch it anymore. And I think that's what Vince doesn't get, is that not always does everybody come back. It's like when NBA has a lockout, or NMLB has a season they don't have, or the NHL has a lockout. Like some of these fans just don't come back right away. And if they do, it takes something big to get them to come back. And no offense, but Brock Lesnar's not that guy. Like, and I know that's what they're trying to set up. They're talking about bringing Cena back, and it just, they're going about it the wrong way. And it's just proof that AEW is way more connected to what the fans want than, Vince being 70 something years old and honestly being out of touch. I mean, that thing we shared, that Mongo shared on our page about the writer not knowing if it was Bobby Ashley or Bobby Lashley, and you write product for the show.
Well, not anymore. She got fired yesterday.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's in a nutshell what's wrong, is that you don't have guys or women or whoever in AEW going, well, is it Cody Rhodes, or is it Rhodes, or is it Kenny, is it Kenny Powers? Like the guy that, like, they know their product and they know what the fans want and they listen. Like WWE is, what's best for business, we listen to our fans. No, you don't. You do not listen to our fans. And that's the biggest difference, is that AEW, when they say they listen to their fan base, they really do, like 85-90% of the time. Like there's certain things they don't do on purpose that they could do, but like, how many, if you had to, both of you guys, if you had to take a percentage of what WWE listens to their fans in, what is it, like Yeselmania, and that's it, like, ever?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, like
negative 5 times a month. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like, and that's the difference, is that AEW wants, like, no offense, but if the fans didn't get Orange Cassidy over, like if he didn't get over, he wouldn't be on the show anymore. Fans got behind him and they said, well, let's push this guy. He's not the biggest, he's not the most athletic. He still does some impressive stuff, don't get me wrong. But there's people on that show like Brian Cage and like all these guys that like can do, like, I mean, Brian Cage might be low key the most athletic big guy I've ever seen. Like some of the stuff he does is crazy, but like that just, do you really believe that somebody like Brian Cage beat Orange Cassidy? Like that's the thing. The fans are so behind him that they listen and they mold it the way they need to. So that way WWE is just like, we have Braun Strowman. Well, we had him. We have Goldberg. We have Brock Lesnar. It's like, yeah, that's cool and everything, but no one cares anymore. It's not 2001. No one cares. Like no one. And that's the biggest difference between these shows and even TNA. Like the stuff that we saw in TNA, the fans may not have known who he was, but they let the wrestling speak for themselves. Like that's the difference. And AEW does the same thing. The wrestlers and the wrestling speak for themselves, whereas WWE tries to do too much sports entertainment, plain and simple.
No, you're not wrong. The listeners agree right now. Our 2 highest episodes are both our AEW shows.
Yeah.
Well, and then the prediction show is Crown. So in the top 5 episodes, it's literally going to be AEW, the first episode, and TNA. Like that just goes to show you why also we've, made this decision to cover, more AEW, more of the road, because this is the product that people are interested in. And I wish more people would tune in who are on the fence, because go back and watch some of these. Watch it from the beginning. That's the great thing. BR Live, these were free. So if you don't have Double or Nothing, so you don't have to at least watch these because they were free. And they keep them out there free. And if you're in the international, it's Fight TV. So BR Live, US, Fight TV, you can watch both these. It's great. And, you know, speaking of cheap plugs, please make sure you're, you know, telling your friends about us and sharing, like we always say. Go to www.pap.com for all the links to our info and let people know about us, because every week we're growing and we want to keep doing these for you. We enjoy it. Like Roland said, we'll do it if we have no listeners. We'll do it if we have 1,000 listeners. This is fun. We want to keep, you know, sharing this with you, our entertainment. Give us a reason to hear ourselves talk. Steal Roland's line from the intro.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that we do this because we enjoy it, but we also want you guys to enjoy it. So if there's certain things you like, you don't like, feedback, again, it's one thing to troll, it's another thing to give feedback. If you think there's something we could do, you know, Mongo mentioned that someone said that our sound was a little bit low. We'll see what we can do about that. Like we're not against getting criticism, as long as you're not being a douche about it. Like there's no reason to troll. There's no reason to be a dick. It just, if you have criticism, compliments, but we'll take it. We have thick enough skin. We're like Tim said, it's one thing to we can handle it. It's one thing to troll us, but to troll a kid kind of thing, like, if you have any criticism, anything, feedback, let us know. And like I said, the worst thing we can say is no. But if it's something that, you know, you think we should do or change or whatever, maybe we'll try it. And if it gets better, then, and you guys like it, then cool. But if not, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And we can't change if we don't know, you know, and that's the thing.
And if you do troll us, though, Vince Russo is going to put you on a pole. So
Straight up your ass. Like, you'll be sitting on top of that pole like a car antenna ornament. Like you'll be just,
oh no.
Yeah. So you know, and that's the other thing too. Like the people that think they're making like a big deal out of the Vince Russo thing, and like, do you think you're getting us to pop, dude? We popped because it happened. Like you're not taking that away from us, regardless. Like how it happened. So like we have a video of it, you don't. Like if you're jealous and you think it's cool to like troll, go ahead. But like, to be 100% honest, from 97 to 2000, Vince Russo may have been the most influential person that WWE had, period. Like there's no other way to look at it. The stuff that he wrote, once they, you know, and you can hate him, you can love him, you can whatever. Yeah, he missed on some things, but if he didn't do what he did to help get the product to the level of WCW when NWO came in, you may not have a WWE anymore. And that's fact, like period. I don't care what anybody thinks, anybody say. If they didn't go with what Vince Russo was saying, you know, and writing for the majority of that time, we may not have a WWE anymore. Honestly, that's 100% fact. And I don't, like I said, I'm not the biggest Russo fan. I like Vince Russo. I've always kind of crapped on him and haha, but you have to respect the guy for what he did. And he might have hot takes. He's just like Jim Cornette. He might have hot takes. You may not like him, whatever. He's a personality. That's what he is. So like, it's huge, regardless of the grand scheme of things. If you don't sit back and think of what Vince Russo actually did for this business, and you don't, or you don't know, you just think he's some like, you know, loudmouth, a hard ass, you know, blowing smoke up people's butts and stuff like that. That's what you think he is, cool. But like, he's a big name in the business, whether people want to admit it or not.
So coming up for you guys next week, we're going to cover Beast in the East 2015 with that super show that they did in Japan. I actually didn't see that one, so I'm looking forward to watching that one for the first time, and we're going to cover that for you guys next week.
It's one of those shows that some people missed or only saw parts of because they showed some of it on, you know, because some of it led to different pay-per-views and whatever. So we might have seen bits and pieces. I don't remember if I saw the whole thing or not either, to be honest with you, but it kind of gets me excited to watch a WWE show because I don't remember much. So I don't remember if I saw a lot of it either, but like it should be nice to, you know, and this was right before it started getting kind of watered down, because they had a decent run from like 07 to like 2012, 2013. Like it was just starting to come out of that era where it was, you know, it's not current product, thankfully, to put it that way.
No, and I am a huge NXT mark, so I watched it because it was basically like NXT versus, you know, WWE. Basically, like it was like a exhibition. You know, Vince thinks he's Rob Manfred, which is a terrible thing anyway, but it's what it was. It was like their all-star game essentially. And I mean, I like it because I'm looking forward to rewatching. Like I think Jericho and Neville had a great match, and obviously Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. So Tim's excited because he gets to watch a Kevin Owens match he hadn't seen before. So I know that's great. And Ron will be happy because he doesn't have to suffer through dog shit matches. So we're all excited. That's what we're going to try to do, is we're going to try to cover and watch, more NXT, more of the, better products, because unfortunately, like Roland said, not to harp on it, there's been some, letdowns. There's been some turds, and it's nice to actually be excited for one that's going to be entertaining and leave you with a better taste in your mouth and not leave you with that weird film like Community Krispy Kreme, that gross ass film.
So Beast in the East 2015 is coming up for you guys next Saturday at 5. Thanks for tuning us in this week. Hope you enjoyed our episode on Fyter Fest. We will be back next week. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.